Hey, Vikings fans, welcome into another episode of the Skol Hop. I'm Evan.
I'm Austin.
We're just a couple of dudes from Iowa. We like drinking beer, talking about the Vikings.
And we almost had to restart this episode already like we did last week. Viewers, you don't know, but I just had a brain fart last week and couldn't. It was like, I'm Austin, and then I didn't know what to say. And I felt like Evan was just about to enter that world of, what do we do
What are you
here?
talking about? I was in full control.
Sure. Okay. But what we do now, Evan, is we drink beer and talk about the Vikings.
We do, but first we're going to pay the bills really quick. We're going to just give a quick shout out to Big Top Ventures for sponsoring today's episode. They can get you the lowest rate possible on several all-inclusive resorts in Mexico or Jamaica. Big Top Ventures, step right up to your next big adventure. We're going to have their email right down here, bigtopventuresllc@gmail.com. You can send them an email, and if you're interested in taking a trip to Mexico or Jamaica, hit them up. They'll hook you up.
Yeah, and keep an eye out. I think sometime coming up in the almost near future, they'll have a website of their own, and you can do all that fun stuff there too. So, yeah, thanks, guys.
That's news to me.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
All right, well, we've got another mystery beer, but I don't know if this one's going to be a very mysterious mystery beer.
All right, in my defense, you weren't supposed to find out what the beer was. And in your non-defense, you're kind of a turd, and you figured out exactly what the beer was. So.
Well, you commented with our account on the brewery that I'm pretty sure it is. Let me just let me give the context here for the viewers and the listeners out there. So you made a comment to the brewery that I'm pretty sure it is.
On Facebook, yeah.
On Facebook, and you said, we might feature this beer soon. And I looked at the picture of the beer and the brewery, and I'm like, huh. And then I went to said brewery
without
today,
really knowing.
knowing.
Had you seen the comment?
I had seen the comment.
That's
but
why you went to that brewery.
No, actually I didn't. My wife and I just really like to go there.
Oh, okay.
And
they're a pretty sweet brewery. You'll find out what we're talking about here in a few minutes.
So we went there and hung out for a little bit, and I had texted you that I was there, and you were like, I just left there 10 minutes ago. And so that's when I was like, oh, all right, that confirms it for me.
Yeah, you said, I think I know what the brewery's going to be tonight. And then you said, well, based off Facebook, I might know the beer too. So you never know. It's still a mystery.
It's shrouded in tinfoil, like it always is. And I would say this is a pretty good job.
Yeah, I'm getting better. I'm getting a lot better.
So nice job.
I just had that 1 week where you made fun of me, and I'll never let that happen again. So...
Well, now I'm going to make fun of you for spoiling the surprise.
That's all right. Hey, how bad can I feel about drinking a good beer?
Not at all.
Yeah, exactly.
You
all
can't.
Right. So
let's pour these.
Let's pour these out. Remember, as always, I brought it, so Evan has to try and guess the alcohol content, the type, and the brewery. So not necessarily in that order.
I think I can get two of those things. I don't know about ABV, though.
Yeah, that's true. You don't know unless you looked at it. Evan, you got so much foam over there. What are you doing?
Yeah, way more than me. Don't even start.
All right, so if you are consuming the Skol Hop via YouTube or you're watching on Spotify, you'll know what this beer looks like right now. But for those of you that haven't really found us there yet and you're just listening to the podcast, Evan, can you kind of tell them... Give them an audio visual of what this beer looks like.
So it's definitely hazy in character, but it's more orange. And
weird.
I smelled it and got a little taste off the can after I finished pouring it, and it's very citrusy, very orangey citrus, which I like.
Yeah.
It's refreshing, especially since it's been super hot lately.
Oh my gosh, it's been really hot the last handful of days here in Iowa. Like,
so
crazy.
Actually, I know the brewer and the name of the beer, but I don't actually know the type.
Oh man,
I didn't really look into the type.
All right.
Or the ABV.
Okay. So the brewer is
Five Cities.
Yes, we got a Five Cities beer, Pride of Bettendorf, Iowa.
Yep.
The name, can you give us the name?
It's their Crush. Tangerine something.
Oh, you are one word away from knowing.
Is it the Tangerine Wheat?
There it is. You found it, Ev.
All right.
And we haven't even tasted it yet tonight. We've both had this beer before.
We've had it?
Yes, I think we've had it together. I know I've had it.
Okay.
And I think it was with you. But let's give it a try. Skol.
Skol. Yeah, it tastes like Orange Crush.
Yeah.
Pop. Like it just tastes like good old orange crush with a hint of beer.
That may be what they're going for.
It's kind of like it's almost like a summer shandy. It's like a good wheat beer mixed with orange crush pop, just like a summer shandy is just a good wheat beer mixed with lemonade.
Yeah,
you know,
in a good way.
In a good way.
Yeah, it's nice and sweet. So it's not just like orange juice. It's got, I know what you're saying by that orange crush pop. Like in a good way, it's very sweet.
Yeah.
Refreshingly sweet, I guess you could say. It's not like pucker unappealing. Yeah, it's orangey. It's a wheat beer. If you don't like oranges, you won't like this. But if you do, if you're even okay with orange tasting stuff, you will like it. Evan, unless you cheated and already looked at the can, can you take a guess at the ABV?
I did not look at the can, actually. I'm going to guess it's in the range of like, it's pretty low. Wheat beers are typically low. I'm going to say 4.7.
And I don't even know off the top of my head.
That's just a guess. Shot in the dark.
Oh. This is a respectable 5.4%.
Okay. So it's a little lower. 5.4.
Yep.
There you go.
So I'd say that's still in the category of crushable, but it's starting to inch up towards not being super crushable anymore.
It's holding its own.
Although, yeah, that's still crushable. So there you go. There's another part of the name. So Orange Crush, it's crushable. You can drink a few of these and still be all right. And it's really good. I like it. What do you think?
It's delicious. I like it.
All right. Well, we lost a little bit of that excitement and that fanfare just because Evan cheated and he already knew what it was.
It was a good story.
But we will probably comment back on that post and maybe even comment this part of the video saying, hey, we tried it and we like it. So 5 Cities, we tried it. We like it. Listeners, you should definitely try it if you can. I don't know if I've seen this one in our favorite local Devil's Glen Hy-Vee, but I know you can get it at the brewery. So give it a try.
Not too far off of I-80.
Yeah.
So if you're ever driving that way, stop by and pick yourself up some beer.
There you go.
Good old 5 Cities. Well, have you been watching Netflix lately?
I have. I'm through, I think, 4 episodes, maybe even 5. Of course, we're talking about Netflix's new Receiver series, kind of the sequel to it's pretty much the direct sequel to last year's Quarterback series. This year
we spent a lot of time talking about that.
Yeah, we did.
Last year, kind of as we kind of got up and running as a podcast.
Yeah, it was like the biggest news story once we first started the podcast. Yep. Of course, Quarterback last year followed Pat Mahomes, Marcus Mariota, and then
Kirk Cousins.
QB1 at the time, Kirk Cousins for the Vikings, and it really changed, I think, a lot of people's opinion in the best way possible on Kirk Cousins. He gained a lot of fans, and then he got injured, and then he just left the team, and he may have lost a few fans after that. But I'd say Quarterback was really good for me. I'd give it like a 8.0 out of 10 as far as like a fun football oriented show to watch. I don't know how I feel about Receiver. What do you think so far?
I'm 2 episodes in, so I'm a little behind you.
Okay.
I will tell you, I was really disappointed that the first episode didn't feature Justin Jefferson at all.
Yeah.
Like I said out loud as my wife and I were watching it, like, I'm mad right now. Where was he? He's a featured athlete in the show. He wasn't featured at all.
Yeah.
In the episode, it was mostly George Kittle in that first episode, if I remember right.
And like I told you, I like George Kittle. He's a hot guy. I think we're entertained by George Kittle. He seems like a good dude. A little kind of crazy a little bit every once in a while.
Fun fact: he went to Cedar Falls High School for like a year.
Wow. Okay. Cedar Falls, famously the home of our alma mater, Northern Iowa.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah, interesting little fact.
Nice.
I don't think he graduated from there, but he went there for a time.
Okay.
Anyways. But yeah, all in all, I've been disappointed 2 episodes in. Obviously, I know what's coming because Justin Jefferson got hurt, and I know that was kind of the main storyline for him through the Receivers series, just kind of having read some things and watching the previews and whatnot. You can kind of... You know the ending because we watched the whole season last year of football and saw how it all panned out in real time, and now we're getting kind of the documentaryized. Is that even a word?
Documented?
Sure.
Yeah, sure.
the
dramatic,
filmed. We're getting the filmed dramatic version of it all, and we're getting, the parallel storylines of Kittle and Devontae Adams and Amon-Ra St. Brown alongside of our favorite player. So all in all, disappointed that he wasn't as featured as much so far. I don't know if that changes in episodes 3, 4, 5.
He gets in it a little bit more, but episode 2 is definitely, so far from what I've seen, the most he's in.
Okay.
But I think one issue is there's 8 episodes, and they're following George Kittle,
4,
Deebo Samuel.
Oh, I forgot about Deebo. They're following 5 guys.
Devontae Adams, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Justin Jefferson. Now it is a little different because Kittle and Samuel are both on the same team, so you can kind of double up there a little bit. But they don't really do a lot of that doubling up. You'd think it would be like the 2 of them in every scene together, so it's technically 2, but really just 1. They're kind of featured separately. They do a good job of that. But yeah, so
to me, in the first 2 episodes, the screen time seemed to favor Kittle first. Then it's probably a tie between Devontae Adams and Amon-Ra St. Brown. And maybe if there was a tiebreaker, Devontae Adams had slightly more. Because I think he went out in a game pretty early on in the season. And went to the locker room, got a shot or something, and then came back and finished the game. And that was pretty heavily you were brought through the timeline of that whole thing in that episode. I think that was the 2nd episode, maybe.
It might have even been the 3rd. I don't remember.
I haven't made it to 3 yet. I'm
okay. Well, then it has to have been.
Pretty sure.
I really thought 1 and 2. The first episode was mainly the Niners guys and then Amon-Ra. And then
the history behind Amon-Ra St. Brown was kind of interesting. His dad's a bodybuilder, former bodybuilder, I guess, and just grew up in this super competitive, you will be an athlete and you will be successful kind of environment. That was kind of eye-opening.
But on the same point, and maybe Netflix just did a really good job of making him not look horrible, but his dad, while it was you are going to be an athlete or whatever, it felt very uplifting and not whipping the, not making him only think about sports. I think the St. Brown brothers have probably what seems to be good parents. So
for sure,
supportive and uplifting, but still pushing in a good way. Really,
they're a very disciplined family.
In a good way.
A lot of parameters and guidelines that they live inside of, and they try to, live a good life that way in all aspects.
So, the quarterback series, I think we talked a lot last year about how it kind of made us feel like we got to know those 3 quarterbacks a little bit better. I remember, and maybe this isn't super fair, but I remember coming away from quarterback thinking, man, Mahomes, he's a really good quarterback and he's dedicated, but he's still kind of that, and I don't want this to come off wrong, but I don't know how these words can come off right, but he's still kind of that frat boy. He needs his posse around him, and he's good so he can back all that up, but he's still kind of I'm king of the world, and it just kind of rubs me the wrong way.
And his wife is definitely living in that little bubble too.
And on that other side of that, it's not like they're terrible people, and they're not, I don't think they're putting a lot of bad in the world. It just seems like they're too much you're pretty full of yourself. But again, on the other side of that, how can you not be full of yourself after 3 Super Bowls and a couple MVP? He's definitely on top of the mountain.
Yep.
And then Marcus Mariota, and this is the nature of the season he had, kind of seemed pretty all about me, kind of, I don't know.
But in a different way than Patrick Mahomes, I'm looking out for what's best for me, not for my teammates, not for the franchise, but like for me.
Yeah.
And
it seemed, the NFL was his job. And again, this might not be fair because he was going through a season of where he was about to have his first child, he and his wife were going to have their first child. And he went through a pretty significant injury that he had to decide for himself if he was going to have a surgery. So it did kind of come across like he was not making decisions that would benefit him and everybody else, but really just him and his family, which on the other side, hard to knock. I'd probably make most decisions to benefit just me and my family. But he did kind of come across a little self-centered in that way.
And then you have Kirk Cousins, who was kind of the shining star of the series last season. And, he's kind of the ultimate dad, and he gets mocked for that sometimes, driving the goofy conversion vans and showing up in khakis and a plaid flannel whatever, and I wouldn't be surprised if he has a fanny pack or something. But like he came across very wholesome, and nobody's perfect, nobody's like squeaky clean. But, man, Kirk Cousins is about as close as you can get.
Yeah.
And in the NFL, for sure.
And, yeah, a lot of people loved that. And, I think there was even a joking commercial about Packers fans all watching Netflix or the quarterback on. And I just love Kirk Cousins so much. And maybe some people have different opinions now after the whole free agency stuff went down. And he may come across as a money grabber going to Atlanta. But none of us know all the details, and it's hard to defend or criticize him just for that. But in that series, that's kind of how they made them be portrayed. And I think the receiver series is kind of doing that a little bit similar, just to be very high and not dive in it too deep. I'm getting the sense from this series, Kittle, he's kind of what we all thought he was, just it seems more authentic. He seems like a fun guy, and not the word party guy kind of comes to me, but
for sure.
Also he seems like a good guy. So it's not just like he's not Gronk. He's not all out. Let's just go rage.
There's that one game. I think it was in one of the first two episodes, because they're the only two I've watched, where he had 3 touchdowns?
Yeah, on his birthday.
And they get in the party bus, and he's just slamming shotgun and beer after beer on the way back. Like,
but I feel like he'd do that if he was like,
for sure,
a part-time janitor working 2 hours a week somewhere. Like, he'd still be, and it seems like not an off-putting personality. No. Like, maybe I wouldn't join him on all that stuff, but I wouldn't, not go give him a high five if I had the opportunity,
Sure.
And then Deebo Samuel kind of is coming across as like a good family dude, good competitive athlete. I don't know. He seems to be kind of a pretty chill, normal, good dude that doesn't seem super full of himself, but still, I don't know. I'm not getting a whole ton of his personality about him through the show. Devontae Adams, to me, is coming across a little
diva-ish.
Yeah, like I just watched an episode today where the famous quote from last year was, "I don't judge things on wins and losses. I judge them on greatness." Like, and he definitely, that seems like the opposite way that quote should go. It should be, I don't care about my stats. It should be all about the wins and losses. But, Adams literally said the opposite. So he's kind of coming across as like that diva type. Again, I don't know this guy, so it's hard to say he's a diva, but it's kind of how he's coming across.
Yep.
Justin Jefferson, to me,
he seems like a homebody almost.
Yeah.
Like, if he's not at the facility, he's locked inside his little condo playing video games. His personal chef is cooking for him, and he's eating candy. Like,
well, but that's the thing too. Initially, I was kind of like, man, like, this kid, he seems like a kid.
He seems like a kid.
He seems like still a college kid. He wasn't like nasty or anything. He wasn't rude, but it was very much like, hey, look, I'm on TV. Like, check out this commercial. And he seemed, again, not mean or rude or horrible or anything, but just still like, oh, he's still 23? Like,
yep.
I guess, yeah, he is a 23, 24-year-old kid. But I have seen, if you go on to future episodes, I think that hamstring injury, I think that kind of turned things around a little bit because he had to, and I'm sure he was a good leader before that and learning how to do that. But anything we've heard about him lately, and yeah, he's still only a 24-year-old kid.
He's 25,
but he's been through some stuff injury wise. Like, he's and he's seen and felt what it's like to not be able to be that on the field leader. And I just watched an episode today where he was pumping Jordan Addison up during the 49ers Monday night game last year and saying, like, we need you. Like, you know, trust Kirk. He's going to hit you. Like, you got to trust Kirk, and like being that leader on the side. And seeing him go through the recovery, he seems like he's growing up a lot and really turning into that captain and less of the 22, 23, 24-year-old kid. Like, I think in the grand scheme of things, this injury that he suffered last year and being away from the game, it's going to be a net positive for him. It definitely helped him grow.
And maybe the lack of focus on him in the Netflix series will actually benefit him down the line too, rather than getting all kind of starstruck and you know, trying to please the camera. He's like, all right, that was great. I've had a good first 4 seasons now in a Vikings uniform, and I just signed that big contract. Let's go out and earn that paycheck, and let's see if we can bring this franchise closer, if not to the promised land.
Yeah, I really do get the sense, and again, this could all be good editing, this could just me having purple colored sunglasses on, but I really do get the sense he is, and he's getting older. Anybody is going to mature when they get older. That last season turned him from, you know, a good superstar player to a superstar leader, and he's going to take ownership of that Viking logo and be the face of the franchise, the face of the NFL. Like, he seems like he's got a good head on his shoulders, and really everything we've seen since, you know, that first episode was taped, when he was showing off his candy and, you know, getting excited about commercials and stuff. And maybe he still loves candy. Like, that's fine. You know, go love candy and be excited about a commercial. I'd be super pumped if I saw myself on national commercials, you know. But it seems like he knows where the focus should be, and he's going to be better for it.
So to kind of transition us away from that, we mentioned him just a little bit ago. Jordan Addison's been in the news lately, and you said it not too long ago, maybe within the last 2 episodes. You said there's not a lot of news happening right now, and typically the only news that happens in this time frame of the NFL calendar year is if you get busted for doing something stupid. And that's kind of where Jordan Addison found himself just a few days ago.
Yeah, I mean, he got arrested overnight on it was either a Friday night into a Saturday morning. And it seems like more information has come out since, you know, obviously we first heard about it. First, it was, you know, Addison was arrested on suspicion of DWI. I guess he was like asleep, stopped. His vehicle was stopped, but he was asleep behind the wheel. I think I even saw he was like in a lane of traffic on the interstate, which it sounds dangerous. I don't know where it was. And then I guess today, we're recording Monday the 15th of July. Today it sounds like there's speculation it just said DWI. I think Ben Gessling said there wasn't any information about like a blood alcohol content, which apparently could mean that it was marijuana and not alcohol, but still, like, it sounds like he was falling asleep behind the wheel of a car, so you probably, I don't care what the substance is. Yeah, you probably shouldn't be behind the wheel. It just seems super dumb, especially with what happened a few weeks ago with his teammate, Kyrie Jackson, going through that horrible incident involving, I think they've even said now, involving alcohol, losing his life. So you'd think he'd be a little bit more careful. But like we were just saying with Justin Jefferson, seeming like a 23, 24-year-old kid, Addison is like 22. And not to be an excuse, but for all the people that first saw it, it's like, how could you do this? Like, why would you think that way? I don't know. I'm not 22 anymore, but I know I was not the smartest 22-year-old kid. Doesn't excuse anything. I mean, Uber is too easy of a thing to call. And if you can't do Uber, I'm sure there's other options. Don't ever. We're a podcast that features beer every week. Don't ever drive drunk or under the influence at all. Like, it's too easy to not do that stuff. So that's pretty disappointing. Thank goodness it seems like nobody was hurt in that incident, but yeah.
It is interesting. I mean, we probably don't want to get super analytical with stuff, but it was interesting he was released less than 2 hours after he was detained. which seems to indicate maybe it wasn't super serious. And there's an absence of a BAC, which means they didn't breathalyze him probably. So maybe they didn't suspect alcohol, which could be some other substance. We don't know. Or, I mean, it could just have been a medical emergency.
Well, yeah, I mean, we don't have every single piece of detail, but I mean, I think they did officially say like suspicion of the DWI or whatever. So. Yeah,
but then on the other side of all of that, he did, I think just today, delete a lot of his social media, like removed any Vikings sort of stuff from anything that he's posted.
You can't find anything. Somebody messaged me today and was like, dude, Addison's like posting some dumb stuff on Twitter. It's like, so I went to go find it and couldn't find his account at all.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe somebody who's smarter told him to delete some stuff, but yeah, I'm trying to pull it up now to see if anything's back up, because he could have just like, I don't know, disabled his account for a little while. I'm not seeing anything yet.
I think a few articles I've read have kind of predicted maybe that a suspension could be coming his way, depending.
And
but you don't know.
You break the rules, you gotta, especially with something like people could die. Like, this is not a laughing matter. Like,
yeah, I think you tweeted it on our account. Maybe it wasn't you. Maybe it was someone else. I can't remember. Maybe you commented on somebody's, but you mentioned Chris Carter. Was that you?
That wasn't me.
That wasn't you. Somebody out there mentioned Chris Carter, and they just said, Chris Carter had a rough start to his NFL career, and we're going to be talking about Chris Carter here in a little bit, because we're in that series of numbers, and I've got a couple of pictures of him behind us here. But anyways, when he was drafted by the Eagles, I'm pretty sure, and spent the first 2 or 3 years of his career in Philly, and he was in tough shape, and he didn't really turn his life around until he came to Minnesota, and Denny Green kind of got a hold of him and really helped him. I think Coach Green helped Chris Carter turn his life around in a pretty positive direction, and he's now arguably the best receiver or one of the best receivers in franchise history.
You've kind of turned, not to talk about Carter too much before we get there, but you've turned me around in saying, I'll say Carter was a better Viking than Randy Moss.
Carter was a way better receiver than Randy Moss because he retired as a Viking, and I think he's atop the list for receiving yards at the very least, is he not? We can check that. He might be,
yeah.
And not that it's a competition. I mean, Randy Moss was obviously a really, really good wide receiver. He just ended up bouncing around to a bunch of different teams after he left the Vikings, and he came back to the Vikings once, and it wasn't great. But I don't know. Chris Carter, man, he's a guy that I've always looked up to, and that's why I have a few pictures of him and a few trading cards of his in my little display case back here. And whatever tweet I read or article I read or whatever just kind of pointed Jordan Addison to Chris Carter. Yep. Like, hey, a guy that played for your franchise, walked a similar path.
They'd probably talk to each other.
You might want to get in touch with him. Yeah. And Chris Carter, if you're out there listening, help us out. Come alongside this kid. Help him walk the straight and narrow, because we like watching him play, just like we liked watching you play back in the day.
Although Carter did get in some heat. I guess this is like 9 years ago now.
Yeah, he was in the news a little bit for some of his comments.
Yeah, I pulled it up. He's telling NFL rookies, like, hey, you gotta have a fall guy. Like, always, if you're hanging out and doing some stuff, like, make sure one of the guys you're hanging out with is ready to take the fall for any trouble you're getting into. And I'm paraphrasing that, of course, but like that one, probably not horrible advice, especially if you're talking to people that are going to get in trouble at some point. But also, like, that's also still horrible advice. Like, that's just don't get in trouble.
Yeah.
Like,
don't do stupid stuff.
Yeah.
Just be a professional.
So maybe he's saying that as a guy who's experienced some stuff and knows, I'm talking to a bunch of kids that are about to get in a bunch of trouble at some point. So if you're going to do that, have a fall guy, but also maybe just teach them not to not to be more like Kirk Cousins. Go home and read books to your kids.
Yeah. Yep. And I'll just to maybe kind of wrap this up on Jordan Addison before we get into the numbers here. You got to wonder if the Kyrie Jackson stuff had an effect on him a little bit. If he was maybe reeling from that a little bit, and not justifying if someone close to you passes away or whatever, go just off the deep end. We're not justifying that, but that would be understandable. Yeah, man, that's a tough thing. Your teammate is gone, and you got to cope, but this isn't the way to do that.
Yeah, for sure.
So, I think we should transition to the numbers, though. We've been kind of long-winded already.
Yeah, let's do it. So, of course, if you've been listening the last few weeks, you know that we've been going through a series, kind of looking at each jersey number, 0 all the way up through 99 now, and looking at players in Vikings history that have worn each jersey number and trying to say kind of who we think are the best players to wear that number. We've gone through, I think we're using Pro Football Reference.
Yep.
There's also another article that we've referenced a little bit too, I think from Vikings Wire a couple years ago, just to kind of say oh yeah, these guys were the best to wear this number. So this week, it's our last episode on that series.
We've reached the finish line, this 5-week series. We're done.
I have heard, I know a couple of non-diehard Vikings fans that, occasionally listen to our show. This isn't their favorite topic, but if you told me that I was going to listen to a podcast on the Bears and that they were going to go off the best Bears to ever wear each jersey number, I probably wouldn't be too interested either. But we're here. Hey, Vikings fans. We've got a few Vikings fans that have piped in a little bit, too.
We have, and we'll mention those guys in a little bit. Mm-hmm. We appreciate the comments that people have been leaving on our YouTube videos. They've actually been really insightful and really helpful, because our history with the Vikings is much shorter than a lot of other people's.
Yeah, there's some people out there that have seen most of the whole Vikings history, and we've seen maybe a quarter of it at this point.
Pretty much the 98 season till now. Yeah. Because that was kind of our coming of age, was 98 as Vikings fans. But anyways, let's start with number 80, because we've already talked about him. But I pulled up the stats here while we were kind of spitballing on some other stuff. Chris Carter is, in fact, the franchise leader in receiving yards. That's not the only category that matters, but he is head and shoulders above Randy Moss in terms of receiving yards.
As far as Vikings.
Yes.
I mean, he may be a better Viking wide receiver than Randy Moss, which almost sounds like terrible words to come out of my mouth.
12,000 yards to Randy's 9,316 yards. Over 12,000. 12,383 for Chris Carter.
And that's wild. Well, in 12 years. So that's more than 1,000 yards a year average for the Vikings.
Yep.
His Vikings AV, remember the Pro Football Reference, they have that aggregate score of how good a player
boiling things down to one number.
Yep. Which isn't a perfect number, but it's at least something to look at. Chris Carter's AV for his Vikings career is 120.
Yep.
Which, if you're a player with an AV over 100, you're just playing good. There's no way around it. You probably did some things in the game that nobody else has done, or only a few people have done. If you're above 100, you're probably a Hall of Famer at that point too. So Chris Carter is a Hall of Famer, maybe the best Vikings wide receiver of all time, and definitely the best Vikings number 80. So
yes, some other notable 80s. They're not nearly as good as Chris Carter. And in fact, 80 has been retired.
Yeah.
It's one of the 6 numbers retired by the Vikings currently. Mm-hmm. John Henderson from 1968 to 1972 wore that number. He was a receiver. And in 1969, had a decent year. 34 catches for 553 yards and 5 touchdowns. So not bad. Dennis Hayes... I think that's your username, Dennis Hayes 65, our unofficial stat guy. If you know anything about John Henderson, let us know.
Yeah.
There's always, not always, also Terry LeCount from 79 to 87, and he seemed to me, just by stats, more of a depth guy. Wasn't really a starter, but was up there in terms of AV, albeit a lower AV than
He's third,
much lower than Chris Carter. And there's a reason 80 is retired. Chris Carter was kind of the face of the franchise through the 90s. So yeah, and a pretty decent guy to look up to.
Yeah, all things considered,
as a player.
Pretty decent guy.
And he's I think he's with Fox. He's kind of made a name for himself
he's
as a
definitely been
broadcaster
out
with
there,
Fox. So yeah, it's been fun to see him continue after football.
For sure.
All right, 81.
Carl Eller.
One
of the Purple People Eaters, played for the Vikings from 64 to 78. 15 years. That's crazy.
That is a lengthy career.
So you thought Chris Carter's approximate value number was pretty high at 120. Carl Eller's is 177.
So
that guy is wild.
This begs the question, why aren't all of the Purple People Eaters numbers retired?
Yeah, that's a good question, because Carl Eller's is not retired. 81 is still
81
available.
Two of them are. We'll get to 88 later. But Jim Marshall and Carl Eller, not retired at this point.
Yeah. Travesty.
What are we doing?
Yeah. Isn't Marshall retired? Marshall's is retired.
Oh, Marshall's retired.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Marshall is not in the Hall of Fame.
He's not in the Hall of Fame. That's the
Horrifically
travesty
not in the
there.
Hall of Fame. Yeah.
But there's that other guy in the Purple People Eaters. I forget his name all the time. But there's a fourth guy.
I mean, there's Marshall, Eller, Page, and then there's that fourth one kind of rotated a little bit.
There were a few. And Dennis, you're going to have to help us out.
Yeah, we need to help. I didn't know if Evan was messing with me there.
Who was the best? I wasn't messing with you. I was hoping you would know. Dennis, you can help us with that one too.
Yeah.
Who was the best fourth member of the Purple People Eaters? But Carl Eller, for sure, way up there in terms of his value to the Vikings franchise. Very good and just super consistent for a very long time. A couple others to where 81, Anthony Carter, from 85 to 93, he was a receiver, I believe.
Also, Eller is the only defensive end, or really defensive lineman at all, that you're going to see wearing 81. They can't wear that number anymore. I don't know when that rule came into effect, but definitely after 1978.
Yep. So, and Alan Page, similarly at 88.
At 88, but 88 is also retired.
It is retired. But yeah, you won't see a lineman wearing 88 anymore.
At least not in the NFL. Maybe in college every once in a while. I don't know.
But continuing on 81 really quick. Anthony Carter, 3-time Pro Bowler. Spent most of his career with the Vikings. Left in 94 to go to Detroit, but he led the league in yards per catch in 87.
There you go.
So not a bad receiver.
Yeah.
And then there was two others that are kind of our time. Visante Shenko.
I remember him for a different reason, but
well, yeah. He was Favre's favorite target, or one of Favre's favorite targets.
Yeah, he was him and Sidney Rice were two big receiving pieces of that 09 season.
Yep. And then Nate Burleson, who's now a broadcaster too.
He's had a good career, maybe even better broadcasting
I would say a better broadcasting career
media
than football
career. Yeah.
But yeah, another notable 81. So there you go.
82. The best one is a recent one, Kyle Rudolph.
Rudolph, the hard-nosed tight end.
And I guess it kind of surprised me. His last Viking season was 2020.
Yeah.
It's been, 3 full seasons since he's been a Viking, which kind of sounds crazy. There are, 12-year-olds who don't remember Kyle Rudolph playing for the Vikings, which is kind of wild to think about. But, yeah, he was on the Vikings for 10 seasons, was one of the first favorite targets of fellow 2011 Vikings rookie Christian Ponder. Kyle Rudolph did a lot of good things. He was a fan favorite. I liked him a lot. His career kind of fizzled out unexplainedly too. He seemed like he was doing good, and then all of a sudden the Vikings got rid of him, and he never really did anything else. He went to New York the next year, and then Tampa Bay the year after Brady won a Super Bowl with them. So
He's another guy that's just like, he kind of just exudes Vikings football. Like, when he was a part of the franchise, he was just the consummate Viking. And on and off the field, you respected everything he did, and he really didn't do anything wrong. Heck of a player. A couple other notable 82s. Jim Lash has the second highest AV, and I will be honest, I know nothing about him. He was a receiver
until now.
Looks like he bounced around. Spent a few years in Minnesota, but was a Viking from, what was that, 73 to 76. So those 3 or 4 years must have been decent if he is an AV higher than Quadri Ishmael. He was a receiver from 93 to 96, and then also Andrew Glover, 97 to 99. So Glover would have been on that 98 team. Glover had that season in 98 35 catches for 522 yards and 5 touchdowns. So he wasn't a starter. He wasn't gonna compete with Chris Carter or Randy Moss for those primary catches, but when those guys were doubled, that may have been Randall Cunningham's next option.
To still have 500 yards in a season like that with those teammates, because Jake Reed was on there too.
He was.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive.
So, and I made a note here too. Quadri Ishmael looks like he was better with the Ravens than he was with the Vikings.
All right.
So here you go, 82.
Nice. And that number, admittedly, Kyle Rudolph's AV is 42. You could come in and own that number. That's a achievable AV to do better than. So you could, up and coming Vikings, if you want to be better than a 10-year Viking vet, you might be able to steal 82. I don't know who's currently got it right now, but it'd be tough, but you could steal it from Kyle Rudolph. 83.
83. Steve Jordan is arguably the best.
Cam Jordan's dad, famously.
Played from 82 to 94. He was a 6-time Pro Bowler as a tight end for the Vikings.
I think he recently got inducted into the Ring of Honor for the Vikings.
That could be correct. I'm not sure on that. But really good tight end for the Vikings in some rough years for the Vikings. Kind of pre-Denny Green, early Denny Green days. When they were still trying to figure some stuff out in the early 90s. But Stu Voigt is another one. Stu Voigt was a pretty consistent tight end for 10 years for the Vikings from 1970 to 1980. And then another one that I saw on the list, he wore a few different numbers, and he did not play a lot of seasons for the Vikings, but he actually coached the Vikings. Do you know who I'm thinking of?
Are you talking about Mike Tice?
I'm talking about Mike Tice. He wore 83 in the 95 season.
Interesting.
So there you go. Yeah. So I wrote in my notes, ha. Like LOL, laugh out loud.
Yeah, former head coach Mike Tice. And not terribly long after he played, he started coaching for the Vikings. It was like, what, the 02 season he started or something?
Yeah, something like that. He was a pretty young head coach when he took over. So, all right, 84.
Man, I don't know.
Who wore 84 for the Vikings?
Man, I just can't think of it. Randy Moss.
I was going to say Cordero Patterson.
Cordero Patterson, he definitely wore it. It's still kind of amazing to me that this number is just not even still kind of being handed out, like actively being worn every year since Randy Moss left the team, even the second time.
Right.
I think, 2009 looks like the only year nobody held that number during the regular season. And then 2010, most of the year nobody held it, except for the couple of games that Randy Moss came back. But after that, I mean, other than that, somebody's worn it every year, which is kind of crazy. I don't understand it. 28 is shadow retired right now. I don't know why 84 is still being handed out.
And I mean, to be fair, Adrian Peterson had a lot of off the field issues. But so did Randy. So did Randy.
And you could argue whose is worse. I mean,
right. And I guess that's my point. Yeah. Is like, if 28 is quasi-retired at this point, why isn't 84? And at some point, you can't just retire every number because one guy wore it really, really well for a handful of years. But There are certain players and certain numbers that just, I don't know. They kind of have to be considered for that honor.
Yeah.
And even if that means that there are upwards of 10 or 15 numbers that are just unavailable for the franchise, not league wide, but for the franchise, like, so be it. I don't know. I'm okay with it. I'm on board with 84 being retired.
Yeah. Or it should be like an honor. Like these players, Randy Moss should have to like give the check mark on like anybody wearing 84 for the Vikings. I don't know. And yeah, I know it's a business, and I know you only have.
I doubt that Josh Oliver called him and was like, "Hey,
yeah," and maybe they did. Who knows?
Can I wear it this year?
But yeah, I just think you need to retire 84. It's still weird to me to see people wearing it. Yeah, they just need to do it. If it was up to me, they'd do it.
Before Randy wore it, Gene Washington wore it from 67 to 72. He was a Pro Bowler a few times. And then Hassan Jones from 86 to 1992. Those are the kind of the two next most notable Vikings to wear 84. Of course, Cordero Patterson wore it. Irv Smith wore it a few years ago. Josh Oliver kind of has it right now.
He definitely has it right now.
I mean, numbers haven't been announced, but yeah, he'll probably wear it again.
Yeah, I don't know why he would have switched. Yeah, because he's worn it. He's been a Viking. Was last year his first year? Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah.
Well, at least with the Vikings. So, yeah. All right. 85, another somewhat gettable number, although not super easy. The best ever, apparently, is Sammy White, who was who was a really good player for the Vikings for 10 years.
Yep.
Probably one of their first really, really, really good wide receivers.
He was Offensive Rookie of the Year, his rookie year in 76, and a Pro Bowler again the next year in 77. So, started every game that he played in, and he had 10 touchdowns his first season, and then 9 touchdowns the next 2 seasons. He finished his career, he played all of his seasons with the Vikings, 50 touchdowns, 6,400 yards exactly, 393 catches. Very reliable receiver.
Yeah. Honestly, a similar Vikings career to Adam Thielen.
Yeah.
As far as numbers go, Adam Thielen with the Vikings so far. Who knows what the future holds? But Adam had 9 years with the Vikings. Granted, I know Adam wore 19, but Sammy White is a previous era player who can kind of match up to Adam Thielen's current era numbers. Thielen had 6,682 yards receiving, 55 touchdowns though. And again, we could always speculate fun-wise that may not be his last stat line with the Vikings ever, but currently a Panther. Yeah, so Sammy White, if you don't know who that is, kind of think of a 70s to 80s version of Adam Thielen.
Here you go. Couple other 85s. Paul Flatley, I think is how you pronounce his name, from 63 to 67. He was up there too in terms of AV. This was back in the day before they really had wide receivers. This was the old school kind of rough and tumble flanker and left end type. I mean, he kind of was probably a crossover between a tight end, a running back, and a wide receiver.
Yeah.
But quite a few yards. He had 3,200 yards for the Vikings and 17 touchdowns in 5 years. He was a Pro Bowler in 66. He was Rookie of the Year his rookie year in 63. So pretty good player too. So Dennis, our stat guy, if you know anything about Paul Flatley, let us know. Jermaine Wiggins was another.
Oh yeah, he was one of the first 85s I remember watching as a kid.
Yep, he ended his career with the Vikings. Tight end from 04 to 06, and he was all right. Wasn't amazing.
Yeah, I think he was a better Patriot than a Viking though. Depends on what the AV. I don't know. I think he was a better Viking than anywhere else. It's just I think he went to the Super Bowl with the Patriots or the Panthers. I don't remember. Either way, he was a Viking.
Yep.
Anybody else or moving on?
Moving on. 86.
All right. Pro Football Reference has Jake Reed, and I have Jake Reed as one of those, like, he's currently the best to wear 86. I think a lot of players or a lot of fans kind of look over him just because he played during the same time. Randy Moss, the end of Reed's career was the beginning of Moss's career. His entire Vikings career overlapped with Chris Carter. Jake Reed was always at least, at best the wide receiver too, but he never did anything wrong. He was just solid. His whole Vikings career ended it. He's kind of interesting because Jake Reed he played until 99 with the Vikings, 2000 with the Saints, 2001 with the Vikings, and then 2002 with the Saints again. So I kind of bounced around a little bit at the end of his career, but a solid Viking and one that everybody should know about because he did a lot of good things.
He ended his Vikings career with 413 catches for 6,433 yards.
Yeah, respectable for a guy that was always at best the second option.
And I think notably too, he never had any of the accolades. No Pro Bowls, no All Pros, no Rookie of the Year, Offensive Player of the Year, nothing like that.
Mm-hmm.
Just he showed up. He started a lot of games. He started 700. No, that's the wrong number.
That's way too
That's
many.
the targets. He started 83 of his 134 games for the Vikings.
Mm-hmm.
So just a really reliable receiver.
Yeah.
Really reliable guy for the Vikings. So
Although that number, just like 85, 86 is one that a Hall of Fame level player, or even somebody who's a fringe Hall of Fame level player, could overtake that. Jake Reed's AV is 57. So somebody could come own 86 and just do really good. I mean,
Hal Bedsole. Hal
the second
Bedsole.
best one.
He's a tight end from 64 to 66.
That's a name right there.
He's the next one. Yeah. We'll call him Shallow Hal because he's got an AV of 6.
Yep. All right. 87 is interesting to me.
Yeah.
Because the current best Viking to ever wear 87 is a guy named Leo Lewis. Played for 11 seasons with the Vikings. I don't know if you've noticed on our list here, I've kind of listed out if players came back to the Vikings. I kind of did a slash.
Mm-hmm.
Leo Lewis played 81 to 91 with the Vikings. But the beginning of the 1991 season, he played the first 3 games with the Browns. He's a wide receiver, and he did some punt returning with the Browns, probably the Vikings too. He's got an AV of 28, and what am I not looking at here? Okay, yep. Leo Lewis, AV of 28, so not very high. He seems like he was a good role player, maybe special teams, definitely punt and kick returner. Was with the Vikings for a long time. And, of course, the Browns for 3 games. He seems like a good dude. If you want to learn something about a guy who has more than just a football career, look up Leo Lewis Vikings. He was with the organization for like 24 total years because he moved into the front office and did a lot,
Really?
I think, with scouting or something. I'm getting that wrong, but look him up. Seems like a good dude. But 87's an interesting number for the Vikings because I had never heard of Leo Lewis today, but he's the best one ever. You've also got Bernard Berrien, who he was a speedy electric wide receiver, former Bear. Currently, you got TJ Hawkinson. So the best ever has an AV of 28. TJ Hawkinson currently has a Vikings AV of 11. If TJ can stay healthy, he's got a lot of years left in his career. And I say stay healthy because currently he's probably going to open up on the PUP list and maybe even miss the first 6 or so games of this 2024 season. TJ Hawkinson could go down and get a number in the 80s, an AV in the 80s, and
for sure.
Totally own this number for the Vikings.
I wholeheartedly agree. Yes. And like if you look at his career AV is a 29 right now. With Detroit, he was an 18, and with the Vikings, he's been an 11. There's no reason that he's above 50.
That he won't get above 50. Yeah, unless like this injury is secretly like the worst thing ever, and he's never going to play football again. Like he should retire, and he's still locked up for the Vikings through like 2028 or something like that.
He's around for a while.
Yeah, so there's no reason he shouldn't end his career as the best Viking to ever wear number 87.
Another Viking to wear that, Mike Tice.
Yeah, we wore 2 numbers, kind of like Pete Bursich.
Yep.
Wore 2 numbers with the Vikings. Interesting. Oh yeah, University of Minnesota favorite Marquise Gray. I think he was a quarterback in college, but switched to tight end in the NFL and bounced around quite a bit.
That's an interesting transition from quarterback to tight end.
Yeah, he's a big dude though. A transition I think Tebow should have made.
Yeah. Well, I think they tried.
Did he ever try to be a tight end?
They tried to do some stuff with him not under center, and it never worked.
That's a whole nother series of episodes right there.
He's a better pastor than he was an NFL player at this point.
I think he's doing okay for himself,
I think
too.
he's doing just fine. Yep.
All right, 88.
88.
I don't even want to joke about this right now. The second best player to ever wear 88 for the Vikings has an AV of 3. Sorry, Charlie Ferguson. The third
Buster Rhymes.
best player is Buster Rhymes. I knew there was a Viking named Buster Rhymes at one point, but I kind of forgot about that
I have this written down, Buster Rhymes, because Charlie Ferguson, I don't know. If you know anything about Charlie Ferguson, Dennis, if you're out there and you know,
let us know.
But Buster Rhymes from 85 to 86, in 1985, he was the league's best kick returner. He had the most kick return yards in the league. Led the league. No touchdowns.
Not just average, but all of it?
Yards.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Number of returns and yards.
Wow.
He had
okay.
53 kick returns for 1,345 yards. Led the league in both categories.
All right. Buster Rhymes. Bust a move. Okay. All right. But of course, the best Viking to ever wear 88, and I believe the last one too. I don't think. Oh, they did.
He wasn't the last one.
Mark May was the last one, but the best ever. It's retired for him. Alan Page.
Yes.
Justice Alan Page, I believe. I think he was, or is, or probably was. He's got to be retired from it now. On the Minnesota Supreme Court.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Definitely a Hall of Famer, an NFL MVP.
Yep.
And a nine-time Pro Bowler. Spent all of his career in the NFC North. At least that's what it's called now. I don't know what it was called back then.
Central, probably.
Yeah, but were they always divisions? I don't know. Dennis, let us know. But yeah, he was a Viking and then finished off with the Bears at the end of his career, which so did Jared Allen. I guess we can forgive him for that. But shoot, even his Bears career, he had an AV of 32 with the Bears. That's better than a lot of the best ever to wear a number on the Vikings list. So, Yeah, 88.
There's a reason it's retired, and that's because he was really, really good.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Yeah, and another one where this best ever number 88, that's a wide receiver or a tight end, or I guess maybe now a fullback. I think they can wear them now. No, defensive tackle. I guess back in the 60s and 70s, you could be a defensive tackle and wear 88, and I love that. That's awesome.
It's a good number. 89, we can probably move through this one pretty quick because I don't really know anybody notable that has worn 89.
Yep.
It's a long list. There's probably, 20 guys that have worn that for the Vikings or more?
Yeah, this seems like one of those numbers that, so currently Thayer Thomas holds that number for the Vikings. I think he was an undrafted rookie. He might not make the team. He might. I don't know anything about him. Don't want to be disrespectful. This is the number for the wide receiver or the tight end that probably isn't going to make the team. I wish, and maybe you can, on Pro Football Reference, look up every NFL player to ever wear a specific number, not just by team. Because I wonder if there's ever been a number 89 that's been a Hall of Famer. There's got to have been, right?
I don't know. You could Google that for sure. That's a Googleable thing. But yeah, so while you're looking that up, the best Viking is Jerry Reichow.
I'm so dumb.
I think I'm saying that right. with an AV of 23. He played from 61 to 64. So one of the original Vikings.
Mm-hmm.
Who's the best player to wear 89 ever in the league?
Yeah, apparently on Pro Football Reference, you can look up all players to wear specific numbers. I had to Google it. I didn't know how to navigate their website to do it right. Steve Smith Jr., just one of the best wide receivers in NFL history. AV of 139 for the Panthers. I think he only ever played for the Panthers, too. Oh, he did play a couple years with Baltimore towards the end of his career.
He had a fun little series. I think it was on YouTube or something.
He did it with the Vikings, too. With like Steve Learns or something like that.
Well, it was with the league. The NFL had him tour a bunch of different places, and he went to a bunch of different facilities, and he came to the Vikings, and he worked with their nutrition staff at TCO. There was another one where he was a ball boy and he was learning all the tips and tricks of being an equipment manager for a team. I forget what team it was, but I think there were a few slights at Tom Brady about deflating footballs and stuff in that one, which I thought was kind of funny. But anyways,
I guess it was NFL's most interesting jobs.
There it was.
Yeah, so he went around and learned a lot of stuff. I think I only ever watched the one with the Vikings.
That was a good one though.
Yeah,
and Steve Smith, man, he's just funny. He's a character.
Yeah, so I'm super dumb. There's actually a lot of players in NFL.
Who else?
A small handful of players in NFL history that did really good wearing 89.
Who are the other notable
Steve
89s?
Smith's number one.
Yep.
Number two is a guy from the 60s and 70s named Dave Robinson, a linebacker mostly for the Packers. There's only 4 players with an AV 100 or above. The other two, there's Smith, Robinson, and then Fred Dreyer from 69 to 81. Played, looks like with 3 teams, mostly the Giants and Rams. And then Nat Moore from 74 to 86 played with the Dolphins. So that would have been both of their Super Bowl winning years, and definitely that undefeated. Wasn't there undefeated a year between 74 and 86? Man, I should know this.
The Dolphins?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those years.
Oh, we're super dumb. Dennis, we need your help, man.
We're Vikings fans.
There's a few that have made a name for themselves wearing that number 89, but not a whole ton. If you only have 4 players with 100 or above AVs, that number, you could definitely make a case to be the best ever. Santana Moss.
Ooh, yeah, he was good.
Yeah, Mike Ditka, I guess,
I guess.
Doug Baldwin for the Saints.
Yep.
Jericho Cotchery, James Jones for the Packers, I believe. Mercedes Lewis. So there's a few guys, but all right. I'm done.
We gotta get into the 90s here. We've been talking for a while already. We gotta get through this series. We are going to finish it because we've got something special coming up for episode 50.
Yeah, we do.
And we're not going to bleed into that with this content.
Yeah. But 89, somebody can come and own that, just like somebody could come in and own number 90.
Yeah.
The best Viking ever. Who is it?
Derek Alexander.
Yeah.
From 95 to 98.
With an AV of 25. So
he has an AV of 25. He had 17 and a half sacks for the Vikings in, 3 or 4 short seasons, the Vikings. So pretty good. Obviously, defensive lineman.
Yeah.
Played on that 98 team. I think he was a contributor on that 98 team, if I wasn't mistaken.
Maybe.
But, yeah.
You got some other names like Fred Evans from 07 to 13. Decently long NFL career, above average length. That's what she said. Then you got Jonathan Bullard, who I think currently owns 93 for the 90 for the Vikings. But yeah, I mean, if you're a guy that makes 3 or 4 Pro Bowls, gets a 10-sack season, you're definitely owning number 90 for the Vikings. I say that like that's an easy thing. It's definitely not an easy thing.
It's no small feat. I think 91 might even be more attainable for somebody really wanting to make a name for themselves. You got Ray Edwards from 06 to 2010 with an AV of 31, which is respectable.
Yeah, he played on the opposite side of Jared Allen for a few years.
But after him, it's
no, but I mean, I shouldn't say
Stephen
nobody. These
Weather-
are human beings. Stephen Weatherly, who he had 2 stints with the Vikings.
Yep.
And I think he got traded away from the Vikings. I think just once. I was going to say twice, but I think he just left the Vikings via trade once.
But there's a long list of players that have worn 91 and just really haven't done a whole lot while wearing it.
Which is interesting because I think 91 is one of those, like, guys like to wear that kind of number. Like, to me, it kind of looks cool. I think Pat Jones currently wears it, and even he's, you could argue, on the bubble to make the team even. So, yeah. Yannick Ngakoue wore 91 for the Vikings, famously played for them for 6 games and still led the team in sacks that year. So, he's bounced around quite a bit after that.
92, kind of another number.
Yeah,
that's
even easier to get than 91.
Roy Barker was the best to wear it from 92 to 2000 with an AV of 22.
Yeah, he bounced around. Looks like he was on 4 different teams in his career. Yeah, nothing to be ashamed of, but
12 and a half sacks for the Vikings in, 4 seasons?
Roy Barker? If he was from 92 to 2000, that's, 9 seasons. Looks like he came back to Minnesota.
Looks like he came back.
Oh, so he only played
5 seasons
5
with the Vikings.
seasons for the Vikings. Okay.
But he had 12 and a half sacks.
Yeah.
Not bad.
All right, so come get 92. Seems like it's definitely attainable. I don't know who currently has it, but all right, 93. This one is not attainable.
No.
You're not going to own this number unless I don't even know what's Aaron Donald. What's his AV?
You should look that up. But while you do, these 2 guys that are basically tied at the top for the number 9, the best 93 in Vikings history, could potentially be on the Vikings Mount Rushmore. Like if we were to.
Oh yeah, and they are. Like there is no question. Like,
like definitely defensive Mount Rushmore, and even more definitely a defensive line Mount Rushmore. Like. So you got Kevin Williams that played for 10 seasons from 03 to 13 with an AV of 120. And then just right before him from 90 to 2000, you have John Randall with an AV of 119.
And it's crazy to me that I would have guessed Randall would have been above Williams.
I would have guessed that too, and I was just about to say that.
Yeah.
But, I mean, the Williams wall was a force to be reckoned with when Kevin and Pat Williams played together. So that could be a contributing factor. Maybe Kevin Williams is getting a little bit of residual from Pat Williams a little bit.
Maybe, but Williams, I don't think you can. And not that you were trying to take anything away from him, but
no.
You're not taking anything away from Kevin Williams. He was one of those quiet guys, but a guy that everybody followed, like a quiet leader. John Randall, a monster. I believe he was undrafted and might be. He's definitely one of the 2 or 3 best undrafted Vikings in their history. Both of them played for Minnesota and Seattle at one point. I think Kevin Williams then played for the Saints after Seattle. So, yeah, just that number you're not getting, and they should dual retire that one in the same way they should dual retire 22, like you just said earlier. So, yeah, an iconic number for the Vikings, and it's kind of crazy that anybody can wear that anymore.
There you go. And it is not one of those kind of quasi-retired, like a 28 Adrian Peterson kind of thing. Like, it's very much open and available if they want it.
Yeah, I looked it up. You would literally have to be Aaron Donald to take this number away from those 2 guys. Aaron Donald, famously probably the best defensive player in the NFL the last handful of years. His AV is 153 for his career. So well above the 120 and 119 for Williams and Randall. But, I mean, you'd literally have to be Aaron Donald to take that over. So, yeah, you're not taking it from Kevin Williams and John Randall.
So the next is 94, and this is maybe a little more attainable if you want to come get it. But
maybe
still,
slightly.
Pat Williams is at the top of the list with an AV of 55. He played from 05 to 2010 and was the other aforementioned member of the Williams wall. You had Kevin and Pat Williams kind of in the middle of the defensive line for a handful of years there in the kind of the mid 2000s, late 2000s. And like I said, they were a force to be reckoned with. It was tough to move the ball up the middle with them in the middle there. So,
and I think we mentioned this idea in like what what episode was it, 60 to 79, or maybe the one before that, where there were a few players on that list that had solid careers, like for 2 or more teams. Like you could have only looked at one of the teams in that player's career and they still would have had a solid career. Pat Williams had solid careers with the Vikings and a solid separate career with the Buffalo Bills. He had an AV of 36 with the Bills and a better AV of 55 with the Vikings. But like you just said with Kevin Williams, maybe Pat Williams got a little bit of a bump playing next to such a great player too. So
he didn't crack the Pro Bowl or even the All-Pro vote until he was a Viking. But he had a safety with the Bills. He had a touchdown,
an
with
interception,
the Bills. A fumble recovery for a touchdown with the Bills. So, I mean, scoring isn't the only thing that you look at with a defensive tackle, but
no, it's one of the last things. But it's definitely a fun thing.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. He had as you're saying, and I'm just reaffirming, he had a great career with both teams.
And it would be tough, but you might be able to take it from him, but you'd have to be a consistent, career Pro Bowler with some good accolades to take 94 away from Pat Williams.
So he's not 94, but he's currently 97, Harrison Phillips. You think Harrison Phillips eclipses Pat Williams as
like a Bill Viking?
Best Bill Viking defensive tackle?
The jury's out. I think that's a good talker. I think Phillips may be built for a different position than what he currently plays, but he's still really good.
He is.
Yeah.
I like him as a Viking.
95. I do too, by the way. 95. The best ever 95 is a guy whose career was cut short pretty early via injury. It was like a foot issue, like a plantar fasciitis. There was some good injury. I think he even, and I may be totally wrong about this, but it's Kenichi Udeze. I'm saying that so wrong. Please forgive me. I think didn't he deal with cancer?
You might be right. I don't know exactly, but
yeah, either way, he is currently listed as the best Viking to wear 95. Another notable Viking to wear 95 was Sharif Floyd in his rookie year. But yeah, even with all the potential, Udeze only gained an AV of 21.
Efedi Odenigbo, he wasn't bad.
He had one season where he was really fun to watch.
He flashed a little bit. I can't remember if it was 19 or 20, but he flashed for sure, and was a lot of fun to watch. It looks like it was probably 2020.
I was totally wrong on Udeze. His leukemia was one of the initial catalysts for his retirement because I'm pretty sure he beat it, and then he tried to return back to the NFL after he beat cancer, and I think he had some foot pain, some lower extremity pain issues as a result of his cancer treatment. So he wasn't able to compete back at that same NFL level, but it sounds like he beat leukemia, which is kind of crazy. So
that's one of the toughest cancers to.
Yeah, so good for him. And I know he's still around, and he's still around the game. I think he was a USC coach for a little while. He's bounced around pretty good too. So
another notable 95. Was. Who are you thinking of?
We'll finish your sentence.
Well, you just pulled it up, and now I see it. That's exactly who I was going to mention. Bryce Popp wore it, and I didn't even, I guess, fully realize that he was a Viking. I know Bryce Popp for being a Buffalo Bill more than I know him playing for any other team.
Yep. Well, he played for the Packers almost half his career, and then the Bills for maybe a third, then Jacksonville, and then his last season was with the Vikings.
Yep. But Bryce Popp is an alum of UNI, which is our alma mater. Yep. And he's now back at UNI. He's a coach.
Yeah, and he has been for at least couple seasons.
Years. Yeah, 2-3 years.
Man, he'd be so fun to talk to. And I don't think it'd be unattainable to talk to that guy.
So, Bryce Popp, if you're out there listening, you want to come on the podcast?
Come on the Skol Hop. We can even have some rivalry because he is definitely a better Packer than anywhere else. Wow.
I
Well,
think
his
he
AV,
I think he was a better Bill.
he had an incredible 1995 season with the Bills. His first year with the Bills, I think he was Defensive Player of the Year that year. He was a longer Packer than anywhere else, but yeah, the Bills, he was
17 and a half sacks that year too. Wow.
Yeah, that's when he really turned it on. Admittedly, he didn't do a whole ton stat-wise for the Vikings, but he still wore the purple and gold, and he had the horns on his helmet, so we'll claim him.
Yep. So, yeah, that was a fun little nugget to find as I was digging through 95s for the Vikings.
Yeah.
All right, 96. We're getting down to it. We got 4 more.
Yeah, 96, Brian Robinson.
Yep.
Just a hard worker, consistent player.
He was fun to watch, and he was on the other side of the line from Jared Allen for a while, too.
It went Ray Edwards into Brian Robinson. I think he was like a 4th-round pick out of Texas. I think he was kind of like a fun yet kind of weird dude, but he would totally take that as a compliment, and that's how I mean it. Pretty sure his rookie year he came into training camp with cornrows. I think I heard a story one time. He's also one that the Vikings kind of put out in the media. He's a good personality. I think they still do. Like 96 Questions is still a segment that comes up every once in a while.
Yep, I think you're right.
But he told a story one time. He was trying to buy his first house ever as an adult, and I guess in Texas, in the area he had come from, like $100,000 was like a really nice house, or a respectable house. I say respectable. That's such a mean thing to say. $100,000 was like a nice house where he did come from, and then he was working with a realtor in Minnesota, and he's like, "Yeah, let's look at places, around $100,000." And he said the places this realtor took me to was just disgusting. Because you think I feel like a Minneapolis, even condo or something for $100,000, like. I'm probably offending a lot of people. I don't mean to, but probably not what he thought was a nice mini mansion.
There's just a difference in the cost of living between Texas and Minnesota. There's a difference.
He'd be another really fun one, I think, to talk to. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
We would come up with 96 questions for him.
Maybe 9.6 questions. But yeah, his AV was 56, which admittedly is attainable. So somebody who gets to 5, 6, 7 Pro Bowls, which is a phenomenal career. I'd probably just described a borderline Hall of Fame career. Somebody could overtake that, but I'd be okay if Brian Robertson held on to the best ever 96 title for a long time.
So when we get into the last 3 here, 97, 98, and 99, I think the best ones to wear them have all been very recent players, and I don't know that it's really that close.
Yeah, well, 97's a little close if you just look at the numbers. I don't know much about him, but Henry Thomas played for the Vikings from 87 to 94. So 8 seasons? Apparently, he's got an AV of 70. Everson Griffin is the guy I actually know way more about. 97. Although Dustin Baker reminded us that he wore, I think, 58 for one game against the Chiefs one year.
In the preseason, I think.
Was it the preseason?
I think he said it was preseason.
Yeah, I don't remember. I retweeted his tweet, and it was on our thumbnail that episode. So, but yeah, Everson Griffin had an AV of 77. Just a phenomenal guy. Another 4th-round pick. A guy that he's a lot of fun. The Vikings had no problem pushing him out into the media. He was on a lot of I can't think of the show. There was a show with Mike Mussman, Vikings Nation or something like that. Every weekly during the season he would come on. He's dealt with some stuff off the field,
mental health kind of stuff, and I don't know. I would expect that stuff kind of ended his career.
It definitely didn't help prolong it, but he does seem like one of those guys that's got a heart of gold and would never purposely put anyone out or put anyone in harm. But yeah, I mean, and I think he's also not ashamed of saying, like, hey, go get your mental health figured out. Like, I'm definitely a fan of Everson Griffin, and I think you are too.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Henry Thomas, though, he was very close, played from 87 to 94, and Everson Griffin was a 4-time Pro Bowler. Henry Thomas was a two-time Pro Bowler and got quite a few votes in the AP All-Pro poll in 93, it was. I think he finished second in the All-Pro voting in 93. So, respectably, a very good player. He bounced around as well. Early part of his career with the Vikings, and then he went to the Lions and then the Patriots before he retired in 2000. But his career AV is 113.
Oh, wow. Okay.
His AV with the Vikings is 70, but his career AV is 113. So,
right. So probably overall better statistical player than Griffin, but as far as Vikings careers go.
And of course, we mentioned Harrison Phillips currently wears 97.
Yeah, and I don't know that he'll go down and take that over from Everson Griffin, but it's not impossible. He'd need to really have a long and more consistent career because Phillips' current AV is 15. But yeah, it's not totally impossible.
All right, two more. 98.
One more. Well, this kind of goes between 98 and 97.
Sure.
So who is the best 98 ever?
Linval Joseph.
Okay, so I had a tweet in January of 2018. Do you know what happened in January of 2018?
You're going to have to remind me.
Oh, it's what if I said it was a part of the 2017 season?
Oh, yeah. The
Minneapolis Miracle. Okay, so I retweeted my personal account. I retweeted a Sports Illustrated video of Everson Griffin watching the Miracle, freaking out. And
I love that clip. It's one of my favorite clips.
Just watch this clip with me really quick. The miracle happens, and then and then it shows the sideline, and Linval Joseph, the best Viking to ever wear 98, turns to Everson Griffin, who is in disbelief. Joseph picks up Everson Griffin and bounces him around like a freaking rag doll in celebration. I think Griffin's jumping too a little bit, but it's still
But that's how
hilarious.
big Linval Joseph was.
And I tweeted and said,
big dude.
I said, Everson Griffin, who is more than 260 pounds, was picked up and bounced around by his teammate Linval Joseph. Linval is a monster.
He was a big dude.
Yeah.
He was a really big dude.
And the best Viking to ever wear 98, Vikings AV of 52. He's still kind of kicking around in the league. He's played for a lot of teams at this point. Yep. Started with the Giants, was a big Viking free agent signing in 2014. Played with the Vikings through the 19 season, and then the Chargers a couple years. Latched on with the Eagles for their Super Bowl run. I think he lost the Super Bowl with them in 22, and then played last season with the Bills for a little bit. And I wouldn't rule him out to show up back in the league somewhere because he's a massive giant that can still get the job done.
He was a Pro Bowler in 16 and 17.
And
both with the Vikings.
Yeah, super underrated apparently. So, yeah, that dude just plugged holes almost as well as Pat Williams.
The second best was DJ Wanham to wear 98 in Vikings history. And yeah, DJ could have had a chance. He's starting to turn his career around. Before that quad tear, I believe it was last season, DJ was starting to click. I know Dustin Baker loves to say that for a while he only ever played good against the Bears. But last year he started, again, before his injury, started playing good against everybody. So I really wanted the Vikings to re-sign DJ, but apparently they didn't want him enough. So the Panthers signed him in free agency. They didn't want him enough.
I really was hoping you wouldn't just let that slide. That is not my joke. I saw it from about 3,000 other people on Twitter. So, yeah, DJ Wanham. I like him. I'm a fan, but I wish he was still a Viking.
All right, 99. Let's finish this thing off.
99. Who's the best ever 99, Ev?
Daniil Hunter.
Daniil Hunter. I'm surprised at how surprised I was when I saw his AV of 70.
I was too, yeah.
Yeah, I think he was a third-round pick out of LSU. I'm pretty sure he either got 0 sacks in LSU or like less than 2 or 3, and then just came to the Vikings, and within a year or two was an elite NFL player. His second year he got 12.5 sacks. So played very well for the Vikings for a long time. I'm sad he's gone.
Four-time Pro Bowler.
Played 9 years, and he's still only 29 right now. So
Yep.
Houston got a good player. I wish the Vikings would have been able to figure out how to keep him, although I don't know. That may have just sacrificed some future cap space. And we talked a few weeks ago, Danielle Hunter is still one of the highest paid Vikings this year. And he's not even on the team anymore. But I'm a fan of him. Next up after Danielle Hunter was one of my first favorite Vikings, Chris Hovan.
Yeah.
I have his jersey hanging up in my closet. I've had it since I was a kid. I don't know how awesome of an off the field person he is. I've heard some stuff, but I don't want to slander his name. I'm sure he's a good dude and doing just fine now. But on the field, he was one of my first favorite players. I loved watching him. I remember my first Vikings game I attended. Watching Chris Hovan and the rest of the Vikings, along with Randy Moss and Cole Pepper, go against the Bears, and I think it was even Rex Grossman at that point too. So yeah.
Not too far behind him, Al Noga, I think is how you pronounce his last name.
Yeah.
But he had a decent career with the Vikings as well. He had 11 and a half sacks in 1989. I'm assuming that led the team.
No, Ev, do you remember who else played on the Vikings in 1989?
You're going to have to remind me.
Who
led the team in sacks? If he didn't lead the team, he was second.
So I'm pretty sure I'm correct on this. I believe Chris Dolman.
Oh, yeah, that would make sense.
More than 20 sacks for the Vikings in 1989. Let me look this up just to make sure I'm not totally coming out of left field with all this.
This was the 89 season.
Oh, man.
We're referencing.
Why is this not showing up super easy? Give me just a second.
Can you search just for Dolman?
Here we go. I could. Yeah, Chris Dolman had 21 sacks for the Vikings in 1989.
Okay.
Henry Thomas was... Al Noga was third.
He was third on the team with 11 and a half sacks. That defense must have been lights out in 89.
So Keith Millard had 18 sacks for the Vikings that year.
Yep.
Keith Millard was also the AP NFL Defensive Player of the Year in 1989, which I didn't know until 2 seconds ago, which is kind of embarrassing for me. But yeah, to have a season where you are third on the team with sacks with more than 11 sacks, that's wild.
Jeez.
Especially, and maybe that's one reason I'm just hearing about Al Noga for the first time right now.
Well, I think he was a pretty respectable number 99.
Absolutely.
Not a Danielle Hunter, and not even necessarily a Chris Hovan, but he's up there with them. So
I wonder if he got injured at some point, because after 89, he didn't really do a whole ton.
He started every game in 90, and then only 8 games in 91.
Yeah.
But then he came back in 92, started every game, then left for Washington and only started 4 games.
Mm-hmm.
And then he only appeared in 4 games with Indianapolis in 94. And that's when his career
so I wonder,
out,
he must have got hit with either one good injury or a couple injuries, which kind of sucks. But yeah, seems like a good dude.
Yeah.
Alapati is his name. It's not just Al. So yeah, what do you think of all these numbers? What's your favorite? There's a couple big ones.
Of just this set of numbers, 80 to 99, number 80.
Yeah.
Well, Chris Carter, he will always be one of my favorite players for the Vikings.
Mm-hmm.
I have 4 things of his just right behind us.
Mm-hmm.
I had a jersey of his at one point, I'm pretty sure.
I have a picture. I think I have a
as a
picture.
kid.
I've seen I don't have a picture of you as a kid. I've seen a picture of you as a kid with 80 on.
It was either 80 or 84. I can't remember now. Now I'm questioning it. But anyways, he was a lot of fun to watch just in the late 90s as a kid coming up as a Vikings fan.
Mm-hmm.
And I know there was a lot of his career that I missed out on because I was just too young to appreciate it. But I don't know. And just kind of seeing his broadcasting career continue and I don't know. I have a lot of respect for Chris Carter. He'd be on my short list of Vikings I'd want to have a beer with, or Vikings I'd want to have lunch with, or something.
Spend have a meal with at least. Yeah,
hang out with for a short amount of time. Anyways, he'd be on the short list for sure.
Yeah.
So what about you?
Well, I don't know about numbers, but for me, I would still, if I could sit down and spend the same short amount of time with anybody right now, it would still be Chris Hovan.
There you go.
Because he was my first favorite player. So it would be kind of like, 11-year-old Austin getting to meet this idol, which they say never meet your heroes. So I don't know if that would work out perfectly, but I think, if I had one person to meet and hang out with for a little bit, it would definitely be Chris Hovan. Although any of these names, really, even the guys that have that lower score and didn't make a huge impact in their careers, I'd still love to hang out with them and see what it was like. I'd have a ton of questions, which, to think that we could sit down with any of these guys from not just this list, but any of the past few numbers list, that's not crazy to think about. Like, some of these guys are out there, and we've,
open invitation.
This time last year, if you had told me like, oh, you get to talk to Dustin Baker on a somewhat regular basis, I'd be like, oh, that's really freaking cool. Like, I don't think that's possible, but here we are. So maybe we should get bold and reach out to some of these guys.
Yeah. Maybe we will.
Yeah, maybe we will.
Maybe we will. We will, for sure, be doing something awesome in just a few days.
Heck yes, we will. So episode 50 of the Skol Hop is coming up. And yes, we've been doing this longer than a calendar year, so we're not quite at 52 episodes yet, but we've been weekly since the, week one of the 2023 NFL season. We started in May of 2023, episode 50. It's a big episode. It's coming up. And one thing we talk about is the Vikings. The other thing we talk about is
beer.
Iowa beer.
Iowa beer specifically.
So we are going to be going on something we've talked about a few times. Our brew hop, Skol Hop brew hop tour, or whatever we're calling it, of some of the bigger Iowa breweries. And I couldn't be more excited.
We're both pretty pumped, and we've been texting back and forth like all week about how pumped we are. So yeah, episode 50, it's going to be pretty special, and we figured everything kind of just aligned with kind of the quiet part of the NFL offseason, our love for beer. Mm-hmm. I'm a teacher. You have some flexibility in your work schedule, so summer works out really well for us to just kind of hit the road for a couple of days and go visit some breweries across our great state of Iowa, and that's what we plan to do.
Yeah.
So
this is kind of like the, not really announcement because we've already announced it, but it's kind of like the last call almost. Like, so we plan to hit up some of the bigger breweries in Iowa. We're talking Big Grove and Reunion and where else? Confluence and Exile, stuff like that. So if you are an Iowa brewery and you've heard of us or maybe even talked to us a little bit and we haven't nailed down anything yet, this is your last chance. Like let's do something. We'd love to talk you guys up. We love beer. We love learning about beer. We have a future video coming out that outlines the whole process where we did our, Skol Hop brew. So we like the process. So if you're an Iowa brewery and you want us to come and talk to us, and big or small or whatever, like, we'd love to come talk to you guys. So last chance until we just walk in the doors and, again, are respectful paying patrons and we don't ruin anything. But yeah, we're coming. So let us know if you want us to come and we'll figure something out.
Yeah. And I'm just excited to hang out, drink some really good beer, and keep doing what we've been doing for 49 episodes now, and that's drinking beer and talking about the Vikings.
Absolutely.
So,
speaking of drinking really good beer, what do you think about this? Oh man, I'm gonna get the name wrong. The crushed Tangerine Wheat.
You said that we've had this together before, and I think that's false. I think this is my first time having this.
Okay.
I think.
I'm probably misremembering something. I think I've had this with friend of the show, Forrest.
When I go to Five Cities, including today, because I was there just a few short hours ago.
Yep.
When I go there, I get Crushing on Amber. That's what I get.
That's hard to beat.
It's the number 5. It's 5th beer on their menu, and I just say I want a number 5, and that's what I get. unless I'm with you and you force me to get something else. But I'm 99% sure I have not had this yet. And it was delicious.
Yeah.
So delicious that we're pretty much gone.
Basically done, yeah.
I'm going to save the rest for our Skol
yeah.
at the end. But really good beer. Like I said at the beginning, it tastes like Orange Crush, the pop, the soda, depending on where you are and how you say
it's
that. Pop, yeah, that's what we say in Iowa. That's what I say.
Yeah.
But some people don't.
That's fine.
But it
wrong.
tastes like that with a good wheat beer. I still stand by my comparison to a summer shandy.
Yeah.
Of a wheat beer with lemonade. It's kind of that with orange pop. It's
I think that's a good explanation.
Kind of combination of the two. It's refreshing. It's easy drinking. 5.5%. It's not gonna cause you to stumble out of anywhere after a couple.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I like it, and I'll definitely have it again.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with everything you just said. It's really good. I'd be happy to order it again. I think the only reason you wouldn't want to go for this beer is if you hate orange flavored things, which if you do, like, okay, that's fine. That's on you. But yeah, I mean, this is really good. And it's orange flavored, but it's not like too much, and it's not fake. I wonder if they use like real oranges in their brew.
They would, yeah, I would expect they do.
Yeah, it's really good. So thank you, Five Cities, for making a good beer. Yeah, we'd love to have more of it sometime. So
yeah, well, and maybe we will.
Yeah,
on our brew tour.
Absolutely,
the brew hop, I should say.
Yeah,
Skol hop, brew hop.
Yeah, that's what it is. We should have made T-shirts. Oh well,
next time.
Yeah. All right,
we're doing it. We have to do it next year.
Now. Yeah, it's the first annual. So
all right.
All right.
Great episode.
Best episode yet.
Skol.
Skol.
Hey Vikings fans, Evan here from the Skol Hop, and we just wanted to say thank you again so much for listening to the Skol Hop, and we also wanted to take one more opportunity to let you know that this episode of the Skol Hop has been brought to you by Big Top Ventures. If you're considering taking an all-inclusive trip to either Mexico or Jamaica, reach out to our friends at Big Top Ventures at bigtopventuresllc@gmail.com. Once again, that's bigtopventuresllc@gmail.com. You can get the lowest rate possible on several all-inclusive resorts throughout the region. Big Top Ventures. Step right up to your next big adventure. And thanks again for listening to the Skol Hop. Skol.